Hello everyone and welcome back to Overwatch 101. This is a series where I try my best to help console Overwatch players get just a little bit better, right? I mean, we know the PC crowd has got a lock on this game because Blizzard loves the PC boys. But as console players, we matter too, and I try to look out for my homies, right? We try to get a little bit better at this game, try to improve our aiming a little bit, try to improve our tactics a little bit, because most of the pros are on PC. But I want to take those tips and tactics and tutorials and guides and all of those pro things and pass them on to you. Now, we're going to be defending Route 66 today, right? Last video we were attacking on Route 66, which is always a pretty basic thing. You just stay with the payload. But defending Route 66 can be pretty complicated if you don't know how to do it, right? If you don't know what you're doing. Most teams, when they're defending Route 66, like to come out here. Just be out here at the beginning near the payload. This is actually a mistake, right? This is a mistake. Now, some of you probably already know this, but some of you probably don't. Being up this far is just too far. You don't want to be here near the payload. Remember when we discussed on Watchpoint Gibraltar that you're just too close to the spawn? Well, that's the case here as well, right? You're just too close to spawn. When you get if you do happen to get a pick off, right, you get an elimination, they're just going to be right back in 7 seconds helping their team. They're just going to beat you over the head if you're this close. You're way too close. You need to back up, right? This is not the appropriate place to be. Now, I know, yeah, they've got a nice high ground here. They've got a nice high ground up there. But it's just still too close to be. This is not where you want to be. You want to be up there, right? Big Earls. Everybody loves Big Earls. And that's where everyone should be. Reason number one, because it's a high ground. Reason number two, because you've got a nice juicy health pack to get down there in case you take a little too much damage, right? This is a nice place to be, a nice home base to make for your people. And you have cover right here behind the Big Earl's sign, right? But right up here is the best place to be, especially if you've got a Bastion, a Torbjorn, a Piggy who's just going to fire into the enemy Reinhardt's shield, right? And just wear it down. This is the absolute best place to be because you're going to give them so much flack from up here. They're going to have a really hard time getting around that corner and getting to right here, right, without taking a whole lot of damage and possibly losing 2 or 3 people in their team, right? Now, if they do start pushing, right, and you're not being reactive enough, if they start pushing and you haven't been able to get the pickoffs yet, you can't really let them get this far. You do have to start being progressive. You have to start being proactive. You do need to jump down and just start attacking, right? You can't just let them move the payload just because you've got the high ground. It doesn't work that way. If they're doing a really good job of defending and healing up their people and they're not dying, then you do just have to jump down and fight it out, right? Big Earls is that just gives you the best opportunity at getting pickoffs and having a good advantage in the fight. It doesn't mean that you're just going to win the game and that if you stay on top of Big Earls, they can't get this checkpoint, right? That's not what that means. So if they do move to this bend in the road right here, you do have to just jump down and fight it out. You can't really let them get this far because this is a dangerous straight right here, right? It's really not that difficult for them to push it that far. I've seen a lot of teams lose because the team gets the payload around that bend and then it's all steam from there. It's all momentum and they just move it straight to the checkpoint. If they are this far, right, then you just have to jump down and meet them at this little choke point, right? There's a choke point that's formed between this sign and the building. It's not much of one, but it's something, right? Now, of course, you got to watch your flank, right? Offensive flankers love to come that way. You have to watch over there big time. That's a big place for flankers to come. But being as close to the payload as you can be, this is really the only choke point, right? This is the last choke point before they reach the checkpoint, which is right there, okay? So you have to defend here at all costs. This is the final straw for the first checkpoint. Well, let's say they get it. Let's say we didn't do our job. Let's say they get it. Let's move on, okay? They're going to be moving through here, and you do not want to be right here. I've seen teams do this. I've seen teams defend right here. Well, this is just madness. They're going to absolutely slaughter you if you just stand right here. This is way too close to their spawn, their new spawn, and this is just too tight of a closed-in area, right? I mean, yeah, you've got them trapped in here, right? But they could easily go right there, right? And that's where they're going to go. because their new spawn is back that way. So they're just going to come down here and flank around you. You do not want to be right here. Absolutely not. That's a no-no. Alright, let's move forward a little bit. Now, this is an okay place to hold them, right? It's alright. It's not great, though, because they can still flank around big time right there. Most of them are going to go right through there. That's where they just, I don't know, that's where most of the traffic comes from when they spawn. So you can hold them here a little bit, right? A little bit, but I'm going to tell you, up there is much better, right? This high ground back here is a much better place to hold. Takes a little bit of work to get up here, takes a little bit of time, but up here, right, and this bridge are really great places to have, okay, because they have a long way to push it before they have the cover of the bridge, right, to heal up maybe a little bit where you can't shoot them, and then they come out the other side, and that's just going a little too far. We don't want them to get that far. So we have this cover up here, and we have a nice view of any flanking that might be going on over there. You do have to keep a watchful eye on that, right? And you just want to be firing into the team. You just want to be firing into them, okay? And just give them all you've got. Now, of course, if they do come this far, you just want to kind of duke it out, right? There's a little bit of a choke formed between this corner of the building here and this corner here. That's a little bit of a choke. It's not much, but you can fight it out and stall them here for a really long time if you're skillful and if you're aggressive, right? You just have to be aggressive. Although, if you have jumped down here, you have to be very aware of the flankers that could still be coming from up there. Now, if you get a good team wipe, then you absolutely want to come back up here, okay, and grab the high ground again. The high ground is the most important thing in the fight, okay? So you can start pelting on them when they come from that way, or pelting on them when they come from that way. This is a really good high ground to have. Now, let's say they mosey right on along, and they just keep pushing and just keep pushing, okay? Well, your spawn, and 99% of everyone comes through this door when they spawn back in. This is where pretty much everyone comes through. So this is a pretty nice place to be, is up here. It kind of puts you out in a nice place. This is a nice high ground to have, right? Now, it can be difficult to shoot them sometimes from up here, okay? But this is a really nice high ground to have if they're right there. Okay, you can do a lot of good things from there, and then your flankers are going to try to do all kinds of crazy things, go around and do all kinds of bad things to them, which is good. But if they do push and they're getting really close, you do have to just jump down and fight it out, right? You can't just stay up in the high ground forever. You have to prevent them from getting this checkpoint, right, at all costs. Now, let's say they do get it because we weren't aggressive enough. Maybe we didn't pay enough attention, right? Which is something you should always be doing, paying attention to the payload. Let's say that they did not, that we did not defend well enough and they got the checkpoint. Now, in here is a vastly different story for attack and defense, right? This is much more closed in. There are a lot more little flanking routes that your flankers can take. This is a lot more difficult for the attacking team. It usually goes better in our favor if we're appropriate enough. The attacking team spawn is pretty close to this area here. The attacking team spawn is going to be right there, where that wood is boarded up those doors. That's where it's going to be. So being right here in this kind of little choke is just definitely too close. There's a flank there, and there's a flank here, and this is the worst one of them all. Right? This one over to the right is the worst one of them all. You're just going to get slaughtered by the entire team flooding in through here. You don't want to be right here, okay? You want to have this high ground, okay? But you don't want to be too close to the lip of the hill because then you can't see them coming around this corner. So holding right here is your best bet, right? Between this box and that box. Holding right here is your best bet. This is where you first take your stand, right? Because you can see them coming, and you can make an offensive and be aggressive. You can see them coming if they choose to go up this hill, which they'd be crazy to do, right? If they come around that side, okay, you can see them there as well, as you see. This is a pretty good place to hold. They can't really do too much sneaky stuff to you from here. Now, some really sneaky and tactical offensive flankers can get up there, right? Which can be a problem, because it's not too easily seen, and they can get the drop on you. But you just have to be aware, you just have to be vigilant. The reason you want to hold them here is because you don't want them getting on this straight right here, because it becomes a little bit easier for them from there if they can build momentum. Now, I want to talk about the high ground, okay, for this area. Now, you don't see too many teams holding this high ground up here. I mean, you will see it a little bit, but these moving platforms are the main reason why. These moving platforms can really get in your way and dislodge you and just be annoying. So you don't see too many teams holding up here, although you can if you like. You can try to hold up here, and you will have the high ground, which is kind of an advantage, but the platforms also kind of get in your way of shooting, right? If you're trying to shoot somebody, they might get in your way. They might take you off, right? There's all kinds of things these little naughty platforms like to do. So holding the high ground here is actually kind of difficult, okay? That's why just holding here, okay, is going to be pretty strong, as long as you keep a vigilant eye on that flank and that flank, okay? You just have to be aggressive. If you see them mounting an offensive going that way, you just have to be aggressive, cut them off. Don't let them get back here, because there's a big health pack back here, and they could grab the high ground here, right? Now, they would have to deal with these pesky platforms as well, but them having the high ground here while you're standing there is very bad. They would absolutely slaughter you if they got this high ground and you were standing right there. So, you don't want to let them get back there. You be aggressive. If you see them going back there, attack them. But this is the best place to hold, at least the first, at first. Now, let's say they move forward, right? Let's say they're moving down this little lane here, okay? The next best place to hold is right here, okay? This is kind of a tiny little choke. Not tiny, but this is a little bit of a choke point here, okay? Their only real flanking option is right there, okay? Which they can definitely take. Naughty flankers can take that flank route, okay? And that's pretty much it, right? At least in terms of flanking routes that you can't see. Because you can see that now. You can see up there now. And you can see over there, right? And you can also see people up there. So you kind of have a really good eye on where they're going to be if you're right here. This is a pretty good place to hold to try to get your pickoffs. And if they get really close, of course, you just be aggressive and meet them in this tiny choked up area. And hopefully you can get your pickoffs. Now, a great place to be if they do happen to push forward, right? They push past you, they've been aggressive. A great place to be is up here on top of the semi, okay? This is a pretty great place to be. Now, you do have to be aware the platforms might try to get in your way again, okay? But this is a pretty nice place to be, okay? Just try to avoid the platforms as much as you can. And if they really want to attack you and be aggressive, they're either going to have to come around and meet you on your level, or they're just going to have to try to weather the storm and move the payload through, right? But you're going to have someone who is breaking down that Reinhardt shield. Now, let's say they push it to, like, right there, okay? Let's say they've pushed it that far. You haven't been able to get any pickoffs from up here. Once again, you do have to just jump down and fight it out, right? Because if you don't, then they're just going to easily win the game. This is victory for them. So if you're not getting pickoff from up there, if it's not working, you have to just come down, fight it out, be aggressive, all right? And let your flankers do the rest, right? Your flankers can do really naughty things here at the end on Route 66. So you just let them do their thing, get behind, and be really aggressive and really naughty, and that should help you win the game. But that's really all it comes down to here at the end, is being aggressive on the payload and letting your flankers do their job. That's what it comes down to at the end. That's pretty much all I've got for you for defending Route 66. It's pretty straightforward. Just take the high ground when you can, and don't when you can't. Okay? I hope you've enjoyed defending Route 66. This has been Overwatch 101, signing off.